The package had been delivered. I watched from across the street, leaning against my car as Jules' boutique assistant walked out, puzzled, carrying the crisp white box with my name stamped on the return label. Inside it was no bomb, no threat, just the cold, surgical documentation of betrayal, debts, and deception. It was everything they thought I was too broken to notice. I hadn't cried when I lost the baby. I hadn't screamed when they ghosted me. But in this moment, as I watched them open the box that would unravel their polished lives, I felt something deeper than relief. I felt certainty. These weren't just friends. They were women I'd laughed with, stood beside at weddings, held in hospital waiting rooms. And yet, while I lay on a hospital bed alone, bleeding out the last hope I had for a child, they were clinking glasses, covered in glitter, hashtagging pound best night ever. I used to wonder if I was overreacting. If maybe grief had made me dramatic. But now, with their silence turned into frantic calls and panicked texts, I finally had the answer. They left me to suffer in silence. I responded with silence wrapped in evidence. And justice. Justice came in a plain white box. It wasn't just the miscarriage. It was the silence that followed. At first, I thought they hadn't seen my message. Emergency. I'm at the hospital. I think I lost the baby. Sent at 2:07 a.m. delivered. Read. No response. By 10 a.m., I was discharged, physically weak and emotionally gutted. I checked my phone again. Still nothing. My partner was out of town for work, and my family was across the country. I curled up on the bathroom floor, still spotting blood, still shaking, and opened Instagram. That's when I saw it. Jules in a red satin dress, doing shots with a guy she swore she hated. Rachel posing by the rooftop pool, captioned, "Healing Vibes." Emma filming everyone shouting, "Happy birthday Jules," like they were 13 again. They had seen my message. They just didn't care. I sent one more message in our group chat, "Thanks for the support. Really means a lot." Emma left the chat. Rachel replied with a single emoji. Jules messaged me privately, "Look, I'm sorry you're going through something, but not everything has to be about you." Something cracked in me then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet, final snap. Like a rope that's been fraying for years and finally gives way. These women weren't friends. They were users wearing friendship like a fashion trend, comfortable, temporary, and disposable. They left me in the dark. They thought I'd just swallow the silence and disappear. They had no idea what silence was capable of becoming. They called me the nice one in the group. I didn't interrupt. I didn't overshare. I didn't post crying selfies or vague quotes. I was the one who paid attention, who remembered their coffee orders, who edited their resumes at midnight and helped them fix their dating app bios. To them, I was quiet. Predictable. Soft. But being quiet doesn't mean being blind. They didn't know what I did for a living. Not really. When I said I worked in litigation, they just assumed I pushed papers in some law firm's back room. They didn't know I'd spent 8 years dissecting human behavior for a living, learning how to build airtight cases, reading every pause in a deposition, and quietly collecting patterns of misconduct, while powerful men smiled across boardroom tables. I'd helped prosecute embezzlement rings, dismantle illegal shell companies, and expose internal harassment cases that made national headlines. I knew how to build a file. I knew how to watch. Wait. Document. And I knew exactly how people fall when they think they're untouchable. So no, I didn't cry when they ignored me. I studied them. I watched what they owed me, not just in emotion, but in money, favors, and legal gray zones they had long assumed I would never challenge. And then I started pulling receipts. Not for revenge. For record keeping. Once I started digging, the scope of their entitlement unraveled like cheap thread. Jules had borrowed $20,000 from me to launch her boutique, promising to pay me back within 6 months, once she got traction. It had been 2 years. No repayment. No contract, but dozens of texts and voice notes detailing our arrangement. She even had the nerve to tag me on launch day as her investor bestie. I was never listed on the LLC. Rachel's startup website. I built it. From scratch. Branding, logo, marketing copy, SEO, analytics setup. All for free. She promised equity. What I got was ghosted after her first successful funding round. Her website still carried the designs I made, but now under the footer, designed by Rachel & Co. and Emma. Emma was the one I protected most. The one who called me in tears after her DUI. I had written the entire apology letter she read to the judge, crafted it with care, compassion, and the right amount of legal gravity. She avoided jail. Her record was sealed. And now she walked around pretending it never happened, because of me. At first, I thought maybe I was being petty, emotional, reactionary. But the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was a pattern. They used me because I didn't demand repayment. Because I didn't post receipts. Because I didn't scream. They believed silence was the same as submission, but I wasn't silent anymore. I was assembling evidence. Each folder on my drive grew heavier: financial records, screenshots, time-stamped edits, proof of ownership, audio clips they'd forgotten they sent. I wasn't just documenting betrayal, I was preparing a reckoning. Because this wasn't about me losing a child anymore. This was about 3 women who built their lives on borrowed loyalty, and never thought the bill would come due. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to post anything cryptic on social media. I was going to bury them with paperwork. I called in a favor from an attorney I'd once helped prepare for a high-stakes corruption trial. She owed me. I didn't need a lawsuit, yet. I just needed 3 pristine, enforceable letters. First, a demand for repayment sent to Jules, citing promissory estoppel, complete with bank transfers, voice notes promising repayment, and proof of business use. It was formal, legally sound, and it would hold up in court if she pushed back. Second, a cease and desist to Rachel, with screenshots of the original web design files, timestamps from my IP address, and clauses citing misrepresentation and unauthorized commercial use. The footer with her and Co. was about to cost her. Third, an affidavit summary drafted for Emma, unsigned, but real. It detailed the help I provided her with her DUI apology, and how I still had the original police report and court correspondence. I included a sentence that made her sweat: should this matter need public clarification, I am prepared to testify to the timeline and authorship of the written statement presented to the judge. And finally, the box. I wanted them to open it together. So I sent it to Jules Boutique, timed to arrive at noon on a Friday, just before peak customer traffic. Inside were 3 thick folders. Each was monogrammed in gold with their name on the front. Neatly labeled tabs, notarized letters, and, most satisfying of all, a final document titled, Formal Termination of Friendship, effective immediately. No tears. No rants. Just evidence. Bound and delivered. That day, my phone rang 17 times. I answered none. I didn't need a courtroom. I didn't need revenge. I needed them to know that their silence had consequences, and that mine had teeth. They didn't call again after that day. But they couldn't help themselves from showing up, like cowards, who realize too late that the fire they started is now burning down their own house. The first to come knocking was Jules. She marched into the lobby of my office building like she still had leverage, waving the envelope in her hand, red-faced and shaking. "You really think this makes you powerful?" she hissed. I looked up from my desk, calm, collected. "No," I said. "The paperwork makes me powerful. The lies you told make you vulnerable." Then came Rachel, cornering me at a networking event 2 days later. "You could have just talked to us. You mean like I did from there while I was bleeding out? Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I gave you silence, I said. You turned it into abandonment. Emma never came in person. She sent a wall of texts, alternating between guilt-tripping and vague threats. She must be realized I wasn't bluffing when I sent her a copy of her court transcript with my annotated drafts attached. But the confrontation I didn't expect was, what happened next? They turned on each other. Jules blamed Rachel for using me more. Rachel leaked screenshots of Emma's Dway cover-up. Emma posted a now-deleted story vaguely accusing toxic women who use trauma for attention. 3 women who once moved in sync, who shared matching tattoos and friendship bracelets, were now unraveling in front of the same online audience they used to flaunt their bond to. And I didn't have to say a word. They exposed themselves. All I did was hand them the mirror. The last message I ever received from them came from Jules. Just 3 words, you win. Goodbye. I stared at the message for a moment. Then I blocked her. Not out of spite. Out of completion. Weeks later, the fallout was impossible to ignore. Jules Boutique, once the darling of the local scene, faced sponsors pulling out after news of the legal claims leaked to a community blog. Her so-called investor bestie wasn't just a ghost anymore, she was a force that shattered the FADE. Rachel scrambled to rebuild her brand after key marketing groups distanced themselves. Her website was taken down for copyright infringement. The community whispered about the founder who burned bridges and stole designs. Emma's carefully curated reputation crumbled when someone reposted the original Dway police report, complete with my annotations. Without my intervention, she might have walked free quietly. Now she faced questions and judgment she could no longer evade. But the most satisfying moment, that came in the form of an anonymous email. Inside was a photo of my favorite spot, a small park bench where I used to sit and cry after the miscarriage. Someone had left a bouquet of white lilies. No note. Just a silent acknowledgement that someone, somewhere, saw the truth. I never wanted to humiliate them. I wanted to be heard. To reclaim my dignity. To remind myself that silence isn't weakness, it's patience. And patience has teeth. I didn't just end those friendships. I ended the cycle of betrayal. I lost a child. But I found my voice. And no box could ever contain that.